Thank you for joining us at the Roundtable.
Brought to you by Community Education Arts, a nonprofit organization based in Noblesville, Indiana.
I'm Alice Cavanagh-Scober, President of CEArts.
And I'm Sarah E. Morin, Secretary of CEArts. Let's sit down
at the Roundtable.
Welcome back. We are now talking about NICE, which is Noblesville Interdisciplinary Creativity Expo. It is another project that Community Education Arts runs. We're once again joined by Deborah Petersen, our guest, and Alice is slightly off camera, but part of our robust conversation today. So yeah, why don't we give them just a little bit of background on NICE?
Okay, well, from off camera, and podcast people don't care that I'm off camera, bless their hearts. I would say, let's see, NICE was, we call it our brainchild, as if we've had this baby. But Sarah E. and I met at an arts organization in town, not our arts organization, another one. And I didn't know you from Adam, but we were at something, and I honestly can't remember what it was, but you read a poem that I just was so inspired by that I painted a painting to go with it. And I think the next time that group met, I sort of tentatively approached you and said, I'm painting a painting for your poem, and you're like, what? You know? And so long story short, we sort of had this collaboration stuff going on. You would write a poem, and I would be inspired to paint a painting. I would paint a painting, and you were inspired to write a poem.
Yep.
And so we were collaborating with each other, and this idea of collaboration was just, we became friends because of this bonding over collaborating together. And we were having coffee one day at Noble Coffee and Tea in Noblesville on the square, and we were talking about our love of classic literature and you know, our most recent collaboration, who knows what it was, and I said something really goofy like, oh gosh, it's like collaborating, you know, I really wish we could, you know, wouldn't it be great if there was an event, we could host an event where people could, you know, collaborate with dead authors, you know, of all this classic literature, and they could create new artwork inspired by the classics. And you didn't bat an eye or miss a beat. You just said, let's do it. And I was like, okay. And then we got serious, and we, you know, thought out how the project would work. And then we worked really hard to come up with a name that it's an acronym would be NICE, N-I-C-E. So it's Noblesville Interdisciplinary Creativity Expo. Again, a wonderful creative placemaking project, because it has Noblesville right in the name.
It does. Yep.
So now you talk a little bit about what it is, what more.
Sure. So we chose NICE because it's easy for people to remember, but also we wanted a nice environment. So a place where if you were a professional artist of any type, from, you know, cake making to painting to music to writing, yes, you could find an audience there. But if you were brand new to it, then you could also find a receptive audience that wasn't going to critique you, wasn't going to jury you. You could just give your works.
Right. There's no awards at this project. Everybody's equal, no matter what their level of artistry or where they're at in their career. That was very important to us because, you know, both of us doing submissions for artwork and writing, you know, there is an element of judging even in getting accepted into a gallery exhibit or anything. And we really, there's no rejection of pieces unless they just don't go with
unless they don't fit the theme.
Selections. Because the basis of NICE is every year we choose 4 works of classic literature, and then out of those 4 works of classic literature we choose one passage, short passage from each piece. And that we usually try to choose standalone passages so that, you know, for example, you don't really have to go back and read the entire Brothers Karamazov. You got a standalone passage that will inspire you somehow. You know, we work, I mean, it sounds goofy, but it works. It really does. And so that's, you know, we don't really, as far as like the artistic element of the project, where we encourage people to create new artwork inspired by our selections each year. It is, how do we say it, no holds barred. Everything goes. There's no limit to what you can create. There's no rejection. There's no judgment. And then we have an event in the fall where people, if they want to, they can come and present and talk about their piece and their inspiration and how that all gelled for them.
Sure.
So the other element of our project is the more academic element. So
Right,
maybe
sure.
talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Yeah, I think one of my favorite parts is doing workshops, and
Yeah.
Deborah is a loyal attendee and
Yes.
contributor,
Yeah.
because in the discussion that comes up, we might invite an expert in, or it might be something that we research and present and then open up to group
Right.
discussion.
And with our backgrounds, we have some what's the word? My brain just went away. Some
Credentials?
credentials, expertise in
Mhm.
some of the things we want to talk about in the workshops.
Sure.
So, but we do like to bring in guests when we can afford it. We can give them a little
Right.
stipend or something. But yeah, that the energy in the workshops is just fiery. It's just
Mm-hmm.
you know, combustible collaboration happening. But go ahead. Sorry, I interrupted.
So actually, I feel a thought bubbling in Deborah's head here.
Ah.
Yes, I do. And the question I'm going to ask you is, can you tell us something about a workshop experience that really was impactful to you?
Yes, I can.
Wonderful. Do you need a vamp over before you answer
As
the
a matter
question?
of fact, I can remember we were in the middle of discussing the Bronte piece, where it was if I could hold
Is that from
the moment in the memory in a bottle. And
Yeah, it was a
that
really
whole,
one. Wuthering Heights.
The Wuthering.
Was that from Wuthering Heights or was that from the Jane Austen?
I thought it
No.
was,
Okay. Oh, no, you're right. It
Yep.
is. Sorry.
But there was a moment when all the presentations were made and the thinking was going on, and then we all kind of claimed a space
Mhm.
in the sanctuary and just kind of, I think one of the professors referred to it, we got pruny with it.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, right. I remember that
We got
phrase.
pruny with
Yeah.
it. And I know that the beginning of one of the pieces that I had submitted for that year's exhibit was We Sent,
Mhm.
which has been published in a couple of other places since.
Mhm.
But that was the moment that out of nowhere I opened up into this other genre, and that was the epistle.
Uh-huh.
The
That's
letter
right.
writing,
Mhm.
Yep.
the cafe clutch.
Mhm.
Here's where we are, and here's what this moment is all about, and just really comfortable, and I'm having a conversation with you. And what I had anticipated, and when these letters were written, and I ended up fashioning them as letters to my daughters.
Mhm. Mhm.
It just again, it opened up, you gave permission, and so many more doors were open that I didn't know I had it in me.
Mhm.
And so I always walk out of the workshops, every one of them, getting a lot more than what you had on the agenda.
Yeah. And someone as well read as you are, and I know there's only been a couple times where you weren't familiar with one of our choices, and you were really excited by that, which
Mhm.
which made us happy, because part of the struggle with a project like this is you want to try to have those 4 selections each year speak to people. And one of the things that Sarah E. and I talked about is that, you know, kind of look at this as we think probably we're looking at, you know, some classic literature pieces that maybe people had to read in high school or a very early college course, had to being the key phrase, or even junior high, you had to read it. And, you know, oh God, you know, well, let's go back to that, see what we get out of it now. Approach it with different eyes, with a different life experience. And at the same time, some younger high school kids are also, you know, responding
Mhm.
for their first time reading it maybe or something. And so, but that idea of going back to something you may have already experienced, but seeing it with a fresh eyes, different perspective,
Mhm.
through a different lens, if you will, the lens of a little bit of wisdom and time
I
passing.
think there's a Hindu word for that called chitta,
Oh, okay.
which I define as a poet's awareness.
Ooh, I like that.
And it's just,
Yeah. That's
not,
exactly what
not
I mean,
just
yeah.
the five senses, but there's a whole other realm involved in,
Yeah, that
in
sounds,
perceiving.
yeah, that
and
sounds
feeling.
exactly like what I was trying to say, so thank you for that new word in my vocabulary.
I like that word. I like that word.
Yeah, I think that's important. I mean, it's been sometimes I will say that this. We have a great time, Sarah E. and I, selecting the pieces. We've never had like battles or fights or, you know, it actually comes so easily to us to narrow it down to 4 pieces in the books or pieces in general, and then to get the 4 passages. You know, because each book when we have the 4 books selected, we may pick 5 passages from each book that we didn't have to hammer out which is the one, you know. And I may pick 5 and she may pick 5, so we've got 10 to battle it out, you know. But it's such a fun process, and we've been doing it now for, this is 2020 is our 5th year, is that right? 6th year?
Might be 6.
Might be 6, I've lost count.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's, yeah, you're right, I think it is. We're moving right along with it, but, you know, you will never run out of choices. But I love some of our choices from the past. I mean, we've done such wonderful, and gotten such wonderful inspired pieces created by other people.
Let's see if we can name a few. Let's see, we've done the Brothers Karamazov.
Yep.
Pride and
Musketeers.
Prejudice.
Oh, Pride and Prejudice, yeah.
Follow the River.
Follow the
With
River.
a fairy tale theme last year.
Yep, we had Hansel and Gretel and The Little Mermaid, and what else do we have?
Tamlin.
Tamlin, and what was our 4th one? Oh my God.
Hunappu and
Oh, that's right, the Mayan,
I
the
call them
Mayan
Bob and
brothers.
Tom.
Bob and Tom, yeah. Hunappu and Shleblanke, the Mayan folklore, yeah. That was fun. But we've done To Kill a Mockingbird, Frankenstein, Odysseus, Macbeth.
Langston Hughes.
Oh, Langston Hughes, yeah, we do sometimes branch out, not just have it be a book, but more, you know, a passage from a poem or something like that. Alice in Wonderland was one of my favorites because our workshops were just so hilarious. We had Mad Tea Party.
Yes, that was
and it
fun.
was just hilarious and fun.
With flamingo croquet.
Yes, it was wonderful. Oh my gosh. What else have we done? We've done so many.
It's a lot of them. One thing I'd like to point out is that we try to always have some kind of underrepresented voice.
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
Follow the River, definitely. That's a book by
James Alexander Tom.
and it's the story of a young woman who is kidnapped by Native American tribe. It's based on a true story.
Yes.
And she's taken away and walks back home. She escapes and walks back home. And it's even though it's written by a man, the perspective of the female is so strong in it, and he also has a very strong sense of the Native American experience. I believe he's married to a Native American in real life, and so that all comes across in that book so well. And then we also did a book called Wainima, Girl of the Forest, which I think we found out was the first published book by a female Native American, and that was an interesting book to share with people. I think it was pretty popular in our workshops and in that year. We had some good feedback on that. What else?
Well, Langston Hughes.
Oh, Langston Hughes was so much fun.
Right.
Actually, the workshop we did for Langston Hughes, we were invited to do again, basically, kind of as a presentation at the one of the Poetry Society of Indiana conferences, and we had so much fun. So we got to live that one twice. That was so much fun. Yeah.
Right, and the Hunappu and Shleblanke.
Yeah, very underrepresented.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
Mayan.
That
Mayan
wasn't
folklore.
even in my level of awareness until you brought it up.
And that goes back to my anthropological days, because I was very, along with the Celtic Ireland and Kennewick Man in the Pacific Northwest, the Mayans in the Yucatan Peninsula, Chichen Itza, that was my third. I had a trifecta. I had a trilogy, and so going back to Hunappu and Shleblanka for me was a labor of love. So
Right.
I'm not sure everybody else really got it, but I think the passage that we chose worked. Which one of the things I want to say about the passages that we choose, like I said, we try to choose ones that stand alone. I don't know very many people who would want to read the whole book of the Popol Vuh, which is what the story of Hunappu and Shleblanka is in. It's very long and crazy, but the passage was something that you could get some visual from, some emotion from. So we always try to find passages that will speak to artists who paint, or
Yes.
photographers, people who write poetry, people who write prose, something emotive. We always try to find passages that will allow people to respond without having to go back to that entire book.
This has been At the Round Table with Alice
And Sarah E.
of Community Education Arts.
Our nonprofit organization is based in Noblesville, Indiana. You can find us online at CEArts.org.
This activity made possible in part with support from the Indiana Arts Commission and the National Endowment for the Arts, a federal agency.
We'd like to thank James Weston for writing our intro music and for his technical savvy.
Join us next time
At the Round Table.